So picture this. You're browsing online and you land on a totally new Shopify store.
Right.
And everything just looks incredibly seamless. Like you've got these beautiful high-res product images. The fonts perfectly match the brand's whole vibe.
Yeah, it just feels premium.
Exactly. And as you scroll down the page, a little badge pops up telling you there are only 2 items left in your size. So you add one to your cart, and instantly this progress bar appears, letting you know you are exactly $12.50 away from free shipping.
Which works every time, by the way.
It really does. It feels like magic. Or, at the very least, it feels like this incredibly bespoke, high-end digital experience. But behind that smooth visual storefront that you're interacting with is this completely hidden layer of code making all those dynamic prices and the inventory badges and the product titles just work together perfectly.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's entirely invisible to the shopper. I mean, that invisibility is heavily engineered. But for the business actually running the store, understanding that invisible layer is really the difference between having a static digital brochure and, a dynamic revenue-generating machine.
And that is our mission for this deep dive. We are unpacking a comprehensive guide we received, and it's titled, What is Shopify Liquid? Syntax, Use Cases, and Limitations.
It's a great document.
It really is. Our goal today is to demystify this invisible engine without getting totally bogged down in overly dense programming jargon. We want to give you a clear map of how this works, why it matters, and how it directly impacts the bottom line of an e-commerce business. So, okay, let's unpack this. What exactly is Liquid at a fundamental level?
So in the simplest terms, Liquid is Shopify's open source template language.
Template language, okay.
Yeah. Think of it as the vital bridge between the raw data sitting in a store's back-end database. So things like product names, prices, inventory counts, and the actual HTML that the customer sees rendered in their web browser.
Got it.
And, fun fact, it was actually created way back in 2006 by Shopify's co-founder and CEO, Tobias Lütke. He wrote it in a programming language called Ruby.
Wait, 2006? That is practically the Stone Age in internet years.
Right.
I mean, it's wild that a technology that old is still the backbone of millions of stores today.
Right. But it really speaks to the robustness of the original architecture. I mean, the source material notes that Liquid has over 11,800 stars on GitHub, 193 worldwide contributors.
Oh, wow. That's a lot.
Yeah, so it is highly validated and just continuously refined by the whole developer community. But, what's fascinating here is how Liquid is actually designed to operate. It runs in what we call a sandbox.
A sandbox, meaning it's restricted in some way.
Heavily restricted, yeah.
Yeah.
General-purpose programming languages usually have completely free reign over a computer. They can open files, delete things, talk to outside servers.
Right, they can do whatever.
Exactly. But Liquid is sandboxed, so it absolutely cannot access the server's underlying file system. It cannot make external network requests, and it just can't execute arbitrary code.
Okay, I'm trying to visualize the actual mechanism of this. It kind of sounds like a high-tech game of Mad Libs.
Ooh, I like that.
Like in Mad Libs, you have a pre-written story, but there are blank spaces where you need to insert a noun or a number. It seems like Shopify provides the HTML sentence with a blank space, like the product name is blank and it costs blank.
Yes.
And Liquid is simply the rule book that tells the server exactly which data point from the database to drop into that blank space before handing the finished page over to the shopper.
That captures the mechanical flow perfectly, yeah.
Yeah.
The customer's browser only ever receives pure HTML.
Really?
Yeah, all the Liquid code is processed entirely on Shopify servers. So the blanks are filled in with the live data, the Liquid tags just sort of dissolve into standard web code, and the final rendering is sent down the pipe.
So the shopper never sees the rule book, just the completed story.
Exactly.
Which brings up a very practical question, I think, about who actually needs to learn this rule book. Because the guide mentions the 80-20 rule of Shopify customization.
Right, the 80-20 rule.
Yeah, so the standard Shopify theme editor, the visual no code option where you just click, drag, and drop, that handles about 80% of what a typical store needs.
Pretty much, yeah.
You can change colors, update fonts, rearrange sections, upload new hero images, all without typing a single bracket. So Liquid is really only for the remaining 20%.
Right. It's for the unique logic, the highly custom layouts, the conditional formatting that the visual editor simply can't anticipate.
But, okay, let me push back on that for a second. If the visual theme editor already does 80% of the work effortlessly, why should a business owner even care about that remaining 20%?
That's a fair question.
If I can get a beautiful store up and running with just drag and drop tools, learning a template language seems like a massive unnecessary headache.
Well, You're touching on the reality of scaling an e-commerce brand. Yeah. Because that 20% is really where the personalization lives.
Ah,
It's the dynamic upsell in the cart that suggests a matching belt when someone buys shoes.
hmm.
Or it's the localized shipping message, the unique product tabs that actually keep a buyer engaged.
So it's the stuff that actually drives revenue.
Exactly. A basic store works totally fine for launching, but optimization requires custom logic. However, the source provides a very pragmatic decision framework for who actually needs to learn this, because it really isn't for everyone.
Let's break that framework down for whoever is listening right now, trying to decide if they need to spend their weekend studying syntax.
Sure. So if you are a store owner with just one store, the advice is blunter. Don't learn it. Hire someone.
Just outsource it.
Yeah, learning Liquid well enough to build custom sections from scratch takes weeks of dedicated study. And one-off developer tasks cost between like $150 to $500. Your time as a solo owner is vastly more valuable when spent on marketing or sourcing or operations.
Right, but I imagine the math shifts pretty dramatically if you're constantly tweaking things, though. Paying $150 every time you want a new custom banner on the homepage, I mean, that adds up fast.
Oh, absolutely. If you're a store owner making frequent changes, say weekly adjustments to product pages or deploying highly specific campaign blocks, then learning the basics is highly recommended.
Makes sense.
It can easily save you $200 to $500 a month in minor developer fees just by knowing how to modify existing snippets.
And what about for the broader team? Say I'm a marketing manager. I'm not the owner, I'm not the developer, but I'm running the campaigns.
Right. For a marketing manager, the goal isn't to write Liquid from scratch, but to read it.
Ah, just to understand.
Yeah, understanding the basics helps you brief your developers much more effectively. You start to understand what is a simple 5-minute fix versus what requires you completely rebuilding a page template.
Which saves everyone a lot of frustration.
Definitely. Now, on the flip side, if you are a freelance developer or an agency team, Liquid is an essential, non-negotiable core skill. Every serious Shopify agency project involves Liquid at a fundamental level.
Well, the source material uses a great analogy to summarize this whole relationship. It says, Liquid is the engine, and the visual theme editor is the steering wheel.
I love that analogy.
Yeah. When you use the no-code editor to change a button color to blue, you're just adjusting a setting. The underlying Liquid code has to actually read that setting and apply the blue color to the button. The steering wheel is completely useless without the engine executing the command.
Exactly. The no-code editor's capabilities are entirely defined by how the theme developer structured the Liquid code underneath it.
So here's where it gets really interesting, the actual syntax, the building blocks of Liquid. The guide breaks it down into 3 core components: objects, tags, and filters. So let's look at how these actually function together.
Okay, so these 3 elements are the entire vocabulary of the language.
Just 3.
Just 3. First, we have objects. In the code, objects are wrapped in double curly braces. They represent the what? They just output live data directly onto the page.
Okay, give me an example.
So if you write double curly brace, product.title, close double curly brace, that tells the server to fetch the name of the product and just print it on the screen.
Got it. So if we map this back to basic grammar to make it stick for a second, objects are the nouns. They are the person, place, or thing, the data itself.
That's a really helpful framing. Yes. Next, we have tags. Tags are wrapped in a single curly brace and a % sign.
Okay.
And tags are the logic. They control the flow of the page, things like loops or if-then statements, but they do not output any visible text themselves.
So they're invisible on the front end.
Exactly. For example, you might have a tag that says, if product.available. It's evaluating the data, asking a question.
Okay, so tags are the verbs. They represent the action or the rule, like check if this is true, or loop through these images.
Right. And finally, we have filters. Filters are added directly inside an object using a vertical pipe character.
The pipe character. Okay.
Yeah, the straight line. Filters act as modifiers. They take the raw output and format it before it hits the page.
What does that look like in practice?
Well, for example, you might have a raw number from the database like 2500. But if you add a pipe and the word money, it formats that raw number into a beautiful currency string.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, automatically adding the $sign and the decimal, outputting exactly $25. You could also use a filter like upcase to force a string of text to be entirely uppercase letters.
Oh, okay. Meaning filters are the adjectives.
Yes.
They describe or modify how the noun, the object, actually looks to the world. So we have nouns, verbs, and adjectives, objects, tags, and filters.
Exactly, and the source synthesizes all three of these into a very clean, practical code example. So imagine you want to show a product title and price, but only if that item is currently in stock.
Okay, let's trace the logic of how that sentence actually gets built.
Sure, so you open with a tag or verb if product.available.
Right.
The server checks the inventory data.
Mm.
If it is true, it moves to the next line. Then you use an object, the noun, product.title. This outputs the name, like canvas tote bag. Then on the next line, you combine an object and a filter, product.price pipe, money. This pulls the raw price integer and formats it. Finally, you close the logic block with another tag and if.
It's remarkably readable, like it reads almost exactly like plain English.
It really does.
But I'm still trying to grasp how this is physically organized. Like if I open up the code editor in the back end of a Shopify store, am I just staring at one massive, terrifying text document with millions of lines of nouns, verbs, and adjectives?
No, thankfully no. Shopify enforces a very strict modular architecture to prevent that exact chaos.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah, the code is organized into a specific directory structure.
Yeah.
You have the layout directory, the templates directory, the sections, and the snippets.
Okay, walk me through how those pieces interact, because a lot of platforms just let you build a page however you want. Why does Shopify force this rigid folder structure?
Well, think of it like a theatrical stage production.
Okay, a play.
Right. The layout directory is the permanent physical theater. It contains the structural HTML that wraps around everything, the stage floor, the main curtain, the global header and footer that appear on every single page of the store.
Okay, so the layout is the theater itself.
Right. Then you have the templates directory. These are the scripts for specific types of plays.
Mm-hmm.
You have a template for how a product page should flow, a different template for a blog post, another for the shopping cart.
But the template isn't the actual content, right? It's just the framework for that specific page type.
Correct. The template calls upon the sections directory, and sections are the modular set pieces you wheel onto the stage.
Ah.
Like a featured collection grid or an email newsletter sign-up block. These are the specific, distinct elements that a store owner can actually add, remove, and drag around using the visual theme editor.
Got it. And where do the snippets fit into this theater?
Snippets are the small, reusable props. Think of a sale badge or a specialized price formatter.
Okay.
Instead of writing the complex code for a dynamic sale badge 20 times across all these different sections and templates, you just write it once, save it as a snippet, and just reference it. Hand out the prop wherever you need it in the store.
Oh, that makes the mechanism so much clearer. It's basically a hierarchy of containers.
Exactly.
Let's look at how this code architecture creates those magical consumer moments you experience while shopping, because the guide outlines some real-world use cases. And the first one is the low stock badge.
Yeah, this is a textbook example of using a tag to drive consumer behavior.
How so?
You create an if statement, checking the current inventory quantity of a specific product variant. The logic essentially says, if the inventory drops to 5 or below, and the inventory is greater than 0, then render a red badge snippet that says only X left.
And because it's tied directly to the live database, it requires literally zero manual effort from the merchant.
None at all.
It just appears when the condition is met, creates instant urgency for the shopper, and then just vanishes when it sells out.
It's completely automated.
That's awesome. The guide also mentions using Liquid for dynamic meta fields, specifically for things like care instructions.
Right, so meta fields are custom data fields you attach to a Shopify product. Let's say you sell clothing. A silk shirt has very, very different washing instructions than a denim jacket.
Oh, for sure.
Instead of installing some clunky third-party app to manage this, you just use Liquid. The code checks the product's meta field for care instructions. If there is data there, it outputs the specific washing text directly into a collapsible tab on the product page.
So it's super clean.
Super clean, and it keeps the page load speed lightning fast because it's natively integrated.
I want to dig into the most complex example in the text, though, the free shipping progress bar. This seems like it requires more than just pulling a word from a database.
Yeah, this one demonstrates how Liquid handles math and logic simultaneously.
Math. Okay.
Yeah, the store wants to tell a customer exactly how much more they need to spend to unlock free shipping. Right.
So if the free shipping threshold is $75 and I have $50 in my cart, the code needs to somehow figure out the difference on the fly. How does Liquid actually do math?
It starts by assigning a threshold variable. The text uses 7,500.
7,500. not 75.
Right, because Liquid generally handles currency and cents to avoid massive rounding errors with
All
decimals.
right.
So 7,500 represents $75.
Huh.
It takes that 7,500 threshold and uses a math filter called minus. It subtracts the cart dot total price.
Okay, let me make sure I follow. So it takes 7,500 cents minus the 5,000 cents currently in my cart, and it holds on to that remaining 2,500 cents.
Exactly. Then the logic tag steps in. It evaluates that remaining amount. If the remaining amount is greater than 0, it triggers a message.
Right.
It uses an object with a money filter to output. Add X amount more for free shipping. And it dynamically converts that 2,500 cents back into a beautifully formatted $25.
You know, if we step back from the syntax for a second,
Mhm.
these aren't just neat little developer tricks. Building a progress bar that dynamically updates as I add things to my cart, I mean, that is a massive lever for consumer psychology.
Absolutely.
Urgency badges, localized shipping bars, these are the subtle nudges that actively increase average order value and boost conversion rates.
Yeah, if we connect this to the bigger picture, Liquid is ultimately a conversion optimization tool. It allows you to build an environment that responds intelligently to the shopper's behavior in real time.
Which naturally leads us to the business reality of all this. Because building intelligent, responsive environments sounds kind of expensive, the guide gives some very specific market rates for the year 2026. What does it actually cost to hire someone to write this logic?
Well, the market has a pretty wide range based on expertise. If you're hiring a freelance Liquid developer, you will generally see hourly rates between $25 and $150.
Okay.
But if you go through an established agency, the rate increases to typically $100 to $250 an hour.
And they break down common task costs to help benchmark budgets too. Like a simple announcement bar or custom banner usually runs $150 to $300 and takes a day or two.
Yeah, fairly quick.
But customizing the cart page, like building that dynamic free shipping progress bar we just talked about, or adding a gift wrapping option that runs $500 to $1,500.
And if a brand wants a completely custom theme built from the ground up, moving entirely away from pre-built templates, they're looking at $3,000 to $15,000 or more.
Whoa.
And that requires 4 to 12 weeks of development time. The text explicitly mentions vetting resources, though, like the Shopify Partner Directory and ecomstore.pro.
That vetting is crucial because the guide warns that not all generic web developers know Liquid. Like someone who builds web apps in React might have literally no idea how Shopify's specific sections architecture works.
Very true.
Which makes me wonder about the risks. Let's say I hire the wrong person, or I decide to try and code that free shipping bar myself at 2 a.m. What are the major pitfalls?
Oh, there are a few. The guide highlights several mistakes, and the first is by far the most dangerous.
Which is?
Editing the live theme directly.
Wait, you mean logging into the Shopify admin panel, opening the code editor, and just typing right there in the browser while the store is taking actual orders?
Exactly that. It is a massive risk. If you delete one crucial closing curly brace on a template file, you can instantly shatter the visual layout of the entire storefront for every active shopper.
Whoa, that's a nightmare.
It really is. The golden rule is to always duplicate the theme, make your changes in a sandbox copy, and preview it before publishing.
Yeah, that seems like common sense once you realize the stakes. What's the next pitfall?
Not using Shopify CLI for local development. Relying entirely on the browser-based code editor is really slow and limits your tools. Professional developers use Shopify CLI.
Okay, I have to stop you there. CLI. Local development. Can you explain that in plain English for those of us who aren't software engineers?
Of course. So CLI stands for Command Line Interface. It's essentially a tool that allows a developer to download the theme code to their actual laptop and use professional coding software to edit it.
Okay, got it.
And the major benefit of that is something called hot reloading.
How does hot reloading work?
Well, imagine writing an article. If you don't have hot reloading, every time you fix a typo, you have to hit save, wait for a server to process it, and manually refresh your browser to see if the typo's gone.
Super tedious.
Exactly. Hot reloading is like a magical mirror. The moment the developer hits a keystroke on their laptop, the local preview of the store updates instantly. It vastly speeds up the development process and allows for proper version control, meaning they can easily undo mistakes.
Oh, that makes total sense. It's like working on a live Google Doc instead of mailing drafts back and forth. You mentioned earlier how the visual theme editor interacts with the code. Does that tie into the third pitfall?
It does, yeah. The third mistake is hard coding values instead of using schema settings. This is a trap that really hurts merchant empowerment.
What makes it a trap?
Well, a lazy developer might write liquid code, so an announcement bar is permanently red and the text permanently says summer sale.
Right.
If you want to change it in November, you have to hire them again to change the code.
Ah, I see.
But a good developer uses what are called schema settings. These settings expose the color and the text directly to the visual drag-and-drop editor. So next season, the store owner can easily change it to a blue winter sale banner without ever touching a line of code.
You want to build flexible tools for the business, not a static monument to the developer. That's great advice. What about the sandbox we talked about earlier?
Right, so that is the fourth pitfall, ignoring the sandbox. Because Liquid is intentionally restricted, it cannot perform heavy back-end tasks.
Like what?
Sometimes developers try to force Liquid to query complex database relationships or make external API calls. It physically cannot do it. If a store needs complex back-end logic, like a highly customized B2B pricing tier, they have to use a different toolset entirely, like Shopify functions or a custom app.
Okay. And the final mistake the guide outlines.
Over-customizing a theme you plan to abandon in a year. Because Liquid customizations are often deeply woven into a specific theme's architecture, they generally do not transfer easily when you switch to a brand new theme.
So you're basically throwing money away.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
If a total redesign is in your near future, keep customizations minimal or build them as those highly modular reusable snippets we discussed.
So what does this all mean? If I'm synthesizing this entire guide for you listening, respect the code. Never test your experiments on a live production theme. Demand that your developers build flexible systems using schema settings so you aren't locked out of managing your own content. And just understand the limits of what this tool can do.
Exactly. It is a really powerful engine, but it requires discipline to maintain safely.
To wrap this all up, the main takeaway here is that you don't have to be a master software engineer to run a highly profitable Shopify store. You can get incredibly far just using the visual theme editor.
Right.
But understanding how the engine under the hood actually operates gives you immense power over your business. It allows you to have intelligent conversations with developers, audit their work, and, dream up new ways to optimize your store. Start with the no-code tools, exhaust their capabilities, but rest easy, knowing that Liquid is waiting there for you when you are ready to level up your customer experience.
This raises an important question, though. Something worth pondering long after this deep dive ends. Think about the paradox of the Shopify sandbox we discussed earlier.
Okay.
Liquid is deliberately limited. It is fenced in. It cannot talk to outside servers. It cannot query the database directly. By all traditional programming metrics, it is severely restricted.
Right.
But by intentionally restricting what developers can do, Shopify essentially forced the creation of a standardized, hyperfast, and practically crash-proof ecosystem. It makes you wonder, how often in business, or even in our personal lives, does tightly restricting our tools and our options actually lead to far more creative, stable, and ultimately successful outcomes?
Man, that is a phenomenal point to leave on. Sometimes an infinite blank canvas is paralyzing, but a rigid coloring book forces you to be endlessly resourceful within the lines. Next time you're browsing a perfectly seamless online store, adding items to your cart, and watching those little dynamic badges pop up out of nowhere, you'll know exactly what's happening behind the scenes. You'll see the intricate game of Mad Libs being filled in milliseconds before the page even loads. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the invisible engine of e-commerce. Keep learning, keep building, and we'll see you next time.